Hello, Waswere here, back with another video, and today we're tackling a 1-99, 120, 200 mil Necromancy guide. I recently completed 200 mil experience in Necromancy and thought I would impart what I learned training the skill back to you. The first thing I want to mention is that this video was created near release date, which means that there is likely more content to come in the future, which might not be included in this guide. This happened with Archaeology, where once Orphan came out 6 months later, it didn't have that in the 1-99 guide. So if there are any additional updates, make sure to take those into consideration. And with Necromancy being a season, I anticipate that happening. Starting off, I wanted to talk about a broad strokes of what is Necromancy. Necromancy is a combat skill, which is the fourth combat style and sits outside the combat triangle, meaning that there aren't any mobs that are weak to Necromancy or strong against Necromancy like the other combat styles. There are two main ways to train the skill, the first being killing mobs and gaining experience, and the second is doing rituals, which is a Necromancy specific activity. Some important notes about the combat is that experience gained in Necromancy, and now all combat styles, is based on the HP of the mob only and not on anything else. This means that you want to train Necromancy with mobs that have a combination of high HP, low damage output, low defense, and a quick spawn rate. Experience gained is in a ratio of 1000 HP equals 20 XP, so a 50-to-1 ratio. Necromancy always has 100% accuracy, but your hit chance, which shows on the monster's tooltip, determines how effective your attacks are. So if you have 75% hit chance, then you deal 75% damage, but you will never miss. With that in mind, you want to focus on training on mobs where you have a high accuracy, so you're dealing more damage. Next up, I want to talk about the useful items that are available to you, and Necromancy is a unique skill with this because a lot of the already established gear has Necromancy bonuses. Any piece of item that previously gave style bonus to melee, ranged, and magic will also give style bonus to Necromancy, and we want to maximize the Necromancy style bonus early as it will make up a majority of your early game damage. Alongside that, there are some passive damage boosts that we can talk about. Let's do this slot by slot, starting with the head slot. Funnily enough, in the head slot, there aren't any pieces of items that provide style bonus to every style, so we're only looking at two items which provide passive buffs. The Slayer Helm provides bonus damage and accuracy to monsters while you're on a Slayer task. This isn't too important as you're unlikely to camp out Slayer tasks while training Necromancy, but if you have a task, take advantage of the free damage. The Ghost Hunter Goggles also provides a passive which gives bonus damage and accuracy against ghost-like monsters, 3% damage for one piece, 6% for 2 pieces, and 10% for 3 or more pieces. The Amulet Slot is one of the more important slots out there as it has the highest stat bonuses. I've listed a total of 6 amulets here. The best one is the Essence of Finality. It provides plus 59 style bonus if ornament kitted and gives up to 3% hit chance. Very, very, very good for training Necromancy. In the event that you cannot afford the EOF, the other amulets, the Amulet of Souls, Amulet of Fury, Dragon Rider Amulet, or Amulet of Glory can be used in its place. I want to make sure I provided cheap options for the less established players that are training Necromancy. There's also one more amulet to talk about that provides a passive, the Salve Amulet E, which gives 20% damage and accuracy when fighting undead monsters, and will be the best in slot amulet against undead monsters, which are going to be the primary focus of training. This amulet is obtained by completing the Lair of Tarn Reservoir, which is a small quest after the Haunted Mine quest. The ring slot is another powerful slot with a couple of relevant rings here. The Ring of Death provides a strong style bonus at plus 25.2 and also provides extra adrenaline when killing mobs, and if we're going to be AoE killing mobs, you're going to get a lot of extra adrenaline from that. The Reaver's Ring provides the strongest style bonus at plus 27.7 and gives a 5% critical chance, but it costs 5% accuracy. My advice would be to only use the Reaver's Ring if you have 100% accuracy with it equipped. Otherwise, it's probably costing you damage. The 6-Age Circuit and Ring of Fortune are cheap or free alternatives to the expensive rings listed above. The Cape slot has some tougher to get items with their best style bonus being from any skill cape. If you don't have any skill cape, you don't have any 99s, then the Arty Cloak from the Diary task can be a good replacement as it gains style bonus with each successive tier, with tier 4 being just as good as a skill cape. There's also another piece of the Ghost Hunter gear in this slot, the backpack. and it's commonly used against ghost-like creatures as a second piece of equipment alongside the goggles to get the 6% buff. For the pocket slot, there are 3 choices to go for, ranging from expensive to cheap. The Elder God Wars book are the best ones, and specifically the Wen book due to its AoE potential. It was insane on the early levels. Next up are the Illuminated God books, which provide +7 style bonus. None of the passives are really that good, so that I wouldn't go for a specific one. And then if you don't have the quest for the Illuminated God books, you can just use a regular God book with +5 style bonus. It's still a little bit of help. For the boot slot, it's a little bit boring as there's only one item that provides style bonus, and that is the Silverhawk boots. But hey, at least they are free to get. The final non-augmented slot is the hand slot, where the Death Touch bracelet is the best at +14.5 style bonus. You don't want to use Cinderbane gloves while training Necromancy due to the fact that poison damage does not count for experience. If you don't have a Death Touch bracelet, Barrow's gloves or lower tiers can be used in their stead. For the top and bottom, there is no hybrid power armor that you can use, so you're not going to get any style bonus out of it, but there are 3 types of hybrid armor that can be augmented, and that is all that matters, is those augments. You want to be able to have access to the really good perks like Biting, Crackless, Relentless, Undead Slayer, Demon Slayer, Impatient, and the like to make your experience gain that much faster. Sliske armor is the most expensive at T80, while Accuracy armor is cheaper at T70, and the High Hanto armor is free for those that have completed the arc. I personally used Accuracy as the difference between T70 and T80 was not worth the cost for me. Alright, that was all the relevant gear. Sorry if that took too long, I just wanted to be thorough to help you as best as I can. One last thing before we get into training is the XP boost. Currently we are during the 6-month embargo where generic XP boosts tend to not work, and the only 3 that are active right now are Torstal Incense Sticks, the Wise Invention perk, and the Inspire Awe Archaeologic Relic. Make sure you use these to maximize your experience gains if you can. Once the embargo is over, other experience boosts like bonus experience, pull scores, DXP, Avatar, and all those types of experience boosts will also work on Necromancy. Okay, one last thing. The player-owned Slayer dungeon will be very important for this skill, as any monster that is an instance may have competition, which means there's going to be 2 or 3 of you trying to kill mobs on the same world, reducing all of your XP rates. You can collect souls and place them in your Slayer dungeon, and then there is no competition as it is instance. This does require 99 Slayer to do, so that might be wise before grinding out Necromancy. Starting off the skill, you can teleport to the Draenor Lodestone and walk north to the portal and trigger the tutorial. I would pay attention to the tutorial. It's pretty good and teaches you a lot about the skill. Please don't spacebar through it, you'll hate yourself later. Once the tutorial is done, you are level 5. You're going to want to purchase both basic candles and basic ink from the general store to do your initial rituals. This can be found in the northwest of the city. You will only need about 1,000 of each, but it's so cheap that I ended up buying the full 15,000 stock. From level 5, you have 2 main options to progress. You can stay at the ritual site until you have 50 souls and then work on combat, or you can stay all the way to 400 souls and then start working on combat. They're kind of the same. There's not much difference between the two. Just do whatever feels right to you. For this guide, I'm going to go through the process of getting up to 400 souls. Fragile mementos can be bought from the GE, with their current price being approximately 3k at the time of making this video. They give 8 souls each, which is double the amount of a wyvern bone, making this process take half as much time. For this guide, I will assume you stay until the 400 souls, but if you want to leave earlier, you would do combat from 12 to 20 at Skoblins, and then come back for the quests. If you get to 400 souls, you'll be at a minimum of level 26 by the time you've done 50 rituals. Each ritual is about 40 seconds long, meaning those 50 rituals will take you about 30 to 40 minutes. Note that if you get any random events, a Wandering Soul or a Sparkling Glyph, try to do those events as they give a pretty good XP drop. My ritual site guide goes over how to do every event, and I will leave a link to it in the description below. Even though you have the 400 souls, you are unable to unlock abilities at the Well of Souls as you do not have talent points, but those will come with gaining experience while doing combat. Once you have the 400 souls, it's time to start upgrading your stuff and learning how to do things with the skill. There are 2 tutorial type quests. one at level 20, KILN, which teaches you how to upgrade armor and weapons, and one at level 24, which teaches you how to make impure essence and craft necromancy runes. I can't re-show myself doing the quest, but have linked 2 quest guides down below for both of them. They are the quick guides from the wiki. They are very quick quests, so the guides help out very well. By completing the quest, you have the tier 20 upgrade already unlocked. Head back to the ritual site with lesser insold bars. These are made by combining bronze, iron, and steel bars together at a furnace. Note that you're going to need 14 of these in total to upgrade your weapon in the future, so it's probably worth getting all of them done at once. You will need regular ink for these incantations, so make a stop by the GE and buy 100 or so, as you will use them in the future. They are currently worth about 50k each. At this point, you should be in the high 20s, maybe up to 30 if you got good events while doing the incantations. If you are below 30, you can do some basic low-level combat at Skoblins until 30. Once you are 30, head back to KILN to do the next upgrade task. Before we go any further, I want to do a little bit of a sidebar for the Necromancy Prayers. There are a total of 11 Necromancy Prayers that are available, and you unlock them as you level Necromancy. At level 10, you unlock all the normal prayers with Hand of Doom and Accelerated Decay, giving plus 6% damage and plus 6 levels for accuracy. While you're a low level, I would advise being on the normal prayer book if you don't need access to Soul Split. That way you can maintain the extra damage and accuracy, increasing your experience rates at these low levels. You can unlock these by talking to Celine in the eastern part of The higher level prayers will require higher level necromancy, so once you get to a new necromancy level that unlocks a new prayer, go talk to her again and she will teach the prayer. A couple notes about combat as well, because we're going to start talking about that. Always keep Necroplasm on you, as it's the resource to summon things, and don't bother with upgrading your armor until later, as you're better off just using your hybrid augmented armor until you get access to T70 power armor. To upgrade to T30 weapons and every upgrade after this, you need to complete a task for killing. Usually it's killing a specific type of mob. For the first task to unlock T30, you need to get 25 troll souls. These can be killed pretty quickly in the Birthorp Caves, with your auto attack being enough to one-shot them all. Once you've upgraded to T30 weapons, you're going to head back to Skoblins, which can be found in the back part of the Lumbridge Catacombs. Make sure to unlock abilities as you gain necromancy experience. There really isn't a specific order to go towards, as you will have more than enough talent points to go around, but I would avoid the Putrid Zombie at a low level, as it deals poison damage, which does not count for experience, which will cut into your experience rates. At a higher level, it's very valuable for its AoE explosion, so you're going to want that eventually. For the T40 upgrade, she requires a meat pie and 50 undead souls. Skoblins work well with this, as they are undead, hence why we're using our Salve Amulet and why we've been killing them all this time. Complete the task and upgrade to T40 Weapons. And, you know, it's going to sound like a broken record, but it's going to be 10 more levels at Skoblins. There are other options like Banshees, but I found that this gave the greatest XP per hour of all the mobs I tested at low levels, at least up until level 50. For the T50 upgrade, it requires an Apple Pie, Necromancer Flippers, and 75 Demon Souls. The Necromancer's Flippers are obtained by killing Mogres, by fishing explosive from any Slayer Master, and head to Mudskipper Point, which is south of Port Sarim. Click on the bubbles in the water and a Mogre will spawn shortly. This doesn't seem to be too rare of a drop, so it won't take you more than 10 or 20 Mogres. For the Demon Soul, any demon works, and the 2 lowest level demons are Imps and Lesser Demons. Luckily, both of them exist inside the Karamja Resource Dungeon. This requires a Dungeoneering level of 25 to enter. There are 11 spawns of Imps running around the area, so chase them around, kill them with your auto attack, and when they're all dead, kill a lesser demon or 2, and you'll get those 75 souls very quickly. At level 50, with T50 weapons obtained, there is an additional option of starting to use your own player-owned Slayer dungeon. If you have 5 Ankous souls in there, you can gain more experience with T50 weapons killing the Ankous than you would get at Skoblins. AFK either one of those until level 60. Level 60 is where the skill opens up a lot. With 60, you've unlocked tier 2 rituals, meaning it's time to go back to the ritual site. The goal at this point is to get up to 3,000 souls to unlock the Hermod boss fight. With tier 2 ritual sites, you have access to alteration glyphs. Well, really you had access to them at level 30, but with this path, we don't run into them till now. Alteration glyphs will change your ritual to do things that help you. An attraction glyph will spawn more events, increasing your attraction, getting you more XP per hour. A multiply glyph will make the output bigger, so if you're getting souls, you get more souls per ritual. And a speed glyph will make the ritual faster. As of right now, you are able to boost to place down these glyphs. So if you're level 60 and you drink an overload to get to level 70, you can now place glyphs down all the way up to level 70. The general rule of thumb is that if you're doing rituals for souls, then you place as many multiply glyphs as possible. And if you are doing rituals for experience, you place down as many attraction glyphs as possible. Speed is relatively worthless with current balancing. At level 60, you're able to boost up to 66 with an extreme necromancy potion or an overload and get access to multiply 2, which increases soul attraction by 40% and output by 40%. There is enough space for 2 alteration glyphs at this point, meaning you can use 2 multiply 2s to get a total percent of 80% extra output. This makes spirit mementos give 43 souls each, and to go from 400 to 3,000 souls, you would be required to do 61 rituals, as they cost approximately 50k each, making the total price of this 3,000 souls 3 million. Instead, you can use Dragonkin Bones, which would take 73 rituals, but it would only cost half as much at about 1.5 mil. Determine if that time save is worth it for you. It's about a 15-minute difference. Also, when you reach 2,000 souls, you can unlock new abilities from the Well of Souls, as you have a new tier. With the 3,000 souls obtained, it's time to upgrade to T60 Weapons. The T60 Weapons require the mid-tier bars to make, Adamant, Rune, and Orichalcum combined together at a furnace. Like the lower tier of bar, a total of 14 is needed. There's no need to use multiply runes on installing the bars at the ritual site, as the output will always round down. So if you have 80% multiply, that brings you up to 1.8, but the game's going to round it down to 1. You need to get all the way up to 2, so it doesn't round down to the base number. With the bars obtained, it's time to do the T60 challenge from KILN. This requires 50 souls from monsters at level 70 or above, a garden pie, and an Ankous residue. The level 70 or above monsters can be farmed from the lesser demons from the Karamja resource dungeon from before, as they are perfectly right at level 70. This worked out very well. I think Jagex might have planned that. As for the Ankous residue, you get this by using an Ankous agitator on an Ankous that is not in combat. It will have a text box above its head. I think it says "ah," and then it will attack you. Kill it. I think you have to do this approximately about 10 times, and then a large level 72 Ankous will spawn, and when you kill it, it drops the residue. Turn those items into KILN, and you're able to upgrade to T60 Weapons. Level estimates are tough to do at this point because of the variance in XP from ritual events, but train with combat up to level 70. At this point, you have definitely grown out of Skoblins, even if you don't have the player-owned Slayer dungeon, but the Ankous are still very viable in your player-owned Slayer dungeon. If you don't have a player-owned Slayer dungeon, you can either kill Shadow Warriors under the Legends Guild, or you can kill Ankous in the Stronghold of Security. It'll be less experience and a higher chance of getting crashed than in your dungeon, but it's better than the Skoblins that you would otherwise do. With level 70 obtained, it's time for the first split. You can either go for tank armor or for power armor. For this guide, I'm going to suggest power armor, but I will give a guide on how to do both tasks. The power task is very simple. Kill 5 Calfight Queen and 5 Giant Mole. They aren't difficult boss fights, and with a little bit of food, you should be able to make your way through them. It's very nice to do the Calfight Queen without having to swap styles. I think anyone hunting for the Calfight Queen pet in the future will probably use Necromancy there. The tank task is a little more complicated as it requires a United Barrows Necroplasm. You complete this task, you kill each brother, and loot the Barrows chest with all 6 Necroplasms in your inventory. To obtain the Necroplasm from the specific brother, you have to kill it, and then use your greater Necroplasm on their tome, taking 20 for each one. For the one brother that is in the tunnel, you will need to come back up to their tomb and use the Necroplasm on it to get it. Once you have all 6 in your inventory, just go complete the chest. This does not include the quest editions of Akrasay and Linza, so they can be fully ignored. On top of that, you need to kill 100 dragons, collecting their souls, the lowest level ones being baby dragons, with the baby blue dragons in Taverley Dungeon working well for this. By completing either task, you get the ability to make the weapon, which now has a powerful special attack being tier 70. Not only does it get a special attack at level 70, but it also can be augmented, which will be a major DPS increases. For training, I put on Precise 6 and Equilibrium 4 Relentless 3. There is also the option of putting on Aftershock 4 Precise 2, as that's slightly more DPS, but I didn't feel like it was worth the cost to get the gizmo for a marginal gain in experience. With T70 Weapons obtained, it's time to do another quest, the Spirit of War quest. This is a quick quest where you unlock the Hermod boss fight. The quick guide from the wiki is linked in the description, but basically the entire quest is you running around in a boat trying to find 4 souls in the lake. Hermod is an interesting boss. It's very much a DPS dummy in the style of God Wars Dungeon 1 content, but it's balanced around necromancy. I would advise in sitting down with this boss to help understand what the abilities do and how they can work well together, and farm up 5 Hermodic plates. These have a 1 in 10 drop rate, so it shouldn't be too long, and you will learn a lot about combat while doing these kills. With 5 Hermodic plates obtained, you can now make the T70 Power Armor set, but as we have been skipping armor crafting, there are 2 choices. You can either buy the T60 tank set, or backtrack all the way and upgrade your armor from tier 10 to tier 60. On screen right now is the items required for both backtracking all the way and then buying the T60 set and making T70. The Lesser Ensouled Cloth you get with Spider Silk pieces. The Lesser Ensouled Thread you get with regular thread. Ensouled Cloth is from Mystic pieces. The Ensouled Thread is from Seasonal Wool. So that's all the colorful wool you get from the sheep. You will also need the 5 Hermodic plates and some runes to finish the crafting. Like with the weapon, T70 Armour is now augmentable. Transfer over your perks from your hybrid armor to your new Death Dealer robes, giving you even more DPS. With T70 Weapons and Armor, most players will be able to tackle the KILN in order to get the Necromancy KILN Cape and use an Igneous Stone to turn it into the Necromancy Zuk Cape. How KILN works is that each wave you get a point for the style that you did the most damage with. There are specific wave counts to do with Necro and what to do with other styles, but what I found to be super easy was just doing the first 22 or so waves with Necromancy, and then swapping to another style to finish off the rest of the cave as it gets more difficult. The Necromancy Zuk Cape is incredibly powerful, and it is a de facto requirement in DPS rotations, as it buffs Death Skulls, which is your best ability. So if you want to camp Ralziel or other non-Necro bosses, I would strongly suggest getting the Zuk Cape. For AFK training, it's not that big of a deal to not have. For levels 70 to 80, the best training method I have found is Bound Skeletons in a player-owned Slayer dungeon, and that gets you upwards of 450k XP per hour, and Necromancy relatively AFK. At level 70, Leech Necromancy Attack and Leech Necromancy Strength were unlocked, giving plus 8% damage and plus 8 levels for accuracy. These are strong prayers and allow you to swap over to the Ancient Prayer Book again, re-giving access to Soul Split. Stay here all the way to level 80. At level 80, there's 2 more Killy tasks, 1 for tank and 1 for power. Noticing a theme here. The power task continues the pattern of bossing, requiring 5 QBD kills and 5 next skills. I should make a note that the next skills can be done in a group with everyone getting a Zerite fragment, as long as they are in the top 16 DPS. The tank task is easier but more convoluted, like T70. She requires a Red Berry Pie, 150 Slayer task soul kills, and a charged Spirit-bound hammer. The Slayer task can be done from any master, so pick accordingly. Personally, I forced the Slayer task with the Jadinko mask, as they were very unlikely to be busy, because who the hell kills Jadinkos? And they're also really low level at level 91, and the task was big enough to get it all done in one. For the Spirit-bound hammer, you have to kill each of the God Wars dungeon generals, and then use the hammer on the altar in the room. This shouldn't be too difficult. Make sure you use the hammer shortly after they die, as it seems there is a small window to get it charged. Upgrading your weapons to level 80 with one of the tasks complete. This will require 6 Greater Ensouled bars, which are made from Necronium and Bane bars at a furnace, and then enchanted at the ritual site. You will need a total of 16, so you might as well gather all of them now as they are very cheap. Very, very, very important piece of advice right now. Do not make T80 armor yet. You'll end up using way more subjugation than you need to, and you can camp T70 armor all the way up until level 90, and you'll save hundreds of mil on subjugation. At level 80, there are more options available to you. You can either do Abyssal Savages in the Wilderness, which reach up to 1 mil XP per hour, but require some attention and are extremely busy, or you can continue to do Bound Skeletons in your player-owned Slayer Dungeon. With T80, the XP rate will be well over 500k. For those without a dungeon, you can kill them north of the fort in the Wildy instead, though you might run into competition. There are 2 additional quests at level 75 and 85 that give Necromancy experience and are prerequisites for the final Necromancy quest. They are Tomes of the Warlock and Remains of the Necromancy. These are very quick and worth the experience for the sidetrack. As with all the quests, the quick guides are in the description of the video. Like both T70 and T80, KILN has 2 tasks, Power and Tank for T90. But as one of the item talks about requires spending subjugation pieces, I'm going to talk about rituals first. Level 90 unlocks tier 3 rituals, which are incredibly powerful. They come with a total of 11 glyph spots instead of the 8 we had previously. The ritual greater in soul material takes up 5 glyph slots, meaning there are 6 available for alteration glyphs. And if you place down 5 multiply 3 glyphs in those spaces, the total multiply percentage gets up to 300%, granting 4 greater ensouled cloth per piece of subjugation used. Multiply 3 has a requirement of 103 necromancy, but since that is boostable, meaning you just have to sip an extreme or an overload and you can place them down. For cloth, you'll need a total of 20 to complete all tasks and make a T90 power set, and an additional 19 if you also want the T90 tank set. As it's expensive to set up all those multiply runes, I would suggest making all your subjugation at once, using 5 pieces for one set or 10 pieces for both sets. The T90 power armor task requires a Fragment of Animate, Ultimate Necroplasm, and Venomous Greater Ensouled Cloth. The Fragment of Anima is dropped by Telos. Even a 0% kill works, but you do need to use a Necromancy on it to get it. The Ultimate Necroplasm requires an Ambassador kill, but this can be obtained by doing the dungeon regularly and then having someone else dart ambi for you after you've already done necromancy damage to it. And the Venomous Greater Ensouled Cloth can be obtained by using one of the Greater Ensouled Cloths on a dead Araxi. Note that the kill for Araxor can be done with any style, so do whatever you're most comfortable with, what you have the best gear for. Just make sure to actually use the cloth on Araxor before leaving. I know I teleported out before doing that my first time. The tank task requires more things, but they are easier things. Noticing a theme? It requires a blueberry pie, 10 powered necromantic seals from each of the God Wars Dungeon 2 bosses, a pulsating onyx, and a singular Soul Reaper task completion. For the seals, you can get them as drops from God Wars 2 bosses, and then you enhance them by doing thematic things. Cyrus seals are enhanced by opening crystal chests. Vindicta seals are enhanced by taking Dragonfire damage with Bone Shield active. Note the Dragonfire, Fire Lines, and Vindicta do not count for this. You have to go to an actual dragon that uses anti-fire or Dragon's Breath like a Steel Dragon. Sliske seals are enhanced by crafting Miasma runes, and Twin Fury seals are enhanced while restoring Infernal Source artifacts. For the Pulsating Onyx, you receive a Necromantic Crystal for killing Jad with Necromancy, and you can combine that with an Onyx to get the Pulsating Onyx. Turn all those in alongside the Blueberry Pie, and you get your tank task done. With T90 weapons obtained, there are 2 maintenance things left to do before you can do whatever the hell you want with the skill. First, get 25 more Hermodic plates from Hermod. This will be all the plates you will need to get T90 power armor. Any additional plates after that, you can sell the excess armor. 2, get 35,000 souls at the ritual site to maximize out all your abilities and get the split soul incantation. With Powerful Communion, you have space for 3 alteration glyphs, and if you put down 3 times multiply 3, you end up with 168 souls per ritual if you use Robust Mementos, which are 4k each right now, or 210 souls per ritual if you use Powerful Mementos, which are about 60k each. To go from 3,000 to 35,000 souls, it would take 153 Powerful Mementos, so approximately 10 mil, or 191 robust mementos. Again, decide what's best for you, but it's such a small cost that I feel like the powerful mementos are better. Between the 25 plates and the 35,000 souls, you should reach level 95, which unlocks the quest Alpha vs Omega. The quest really isn't a quest, as the entire quest is a boss fight, but complete it if you can for the extra XP boost. With the quest done, you are through the progression of the skill, and now it's all about experience gained. You've unlocked the best armor, you've crafted the T90 armor, you have everything you need. The only thing is now deciding exactly what you're going to do for the remaining 100 million experience to get to 120, or the remaining 190 million experience to get to 200 mil. And I'm just going to list out a couple here. There's going to be more developed over the coming weeks as new methods get discovered. And there's going to be a lot of standalone videos that come out when these new methods get discovered. So pay attention to them. And if there are any really good methods, I will leave them in the description below and give a little bit of a Cliff Notes version of them. Abyssal Beasts at level 100 can be AFK'd for 1.4 million experience per hour. These souls do take a long time to capture and are very competitive, so you may see issues in gathering them. On screen now is the bar that people have been using there, and it works to AFK for as long as they need to. Armored Phantoms can be killed for 1.6 mil XP per hour. This is an ultra competitive and non-instant spot, so you're unlikely to get any world. I would skip on this method for now, as it's the new hot thing. Protox made a video on it, so I'm going to leave a link to that in the description. Abyssal Savages can be killed as they were when you were doing them at level 80, but you're going to get more experience per hour because you now have better gear. But again, there's going to be a lot of competition there, and it's almost better to keep those slots for level 80 to 90 players and focus on something that you can do in a Slayer dungeon to not get annoyed. Ritual sites can be used for between 1.2 to 2.5 million XP per hour. I have a full guide on that, and I've already mentioned it a couple times, but it's linked in the description. You can also camp Hermod and Raziel for their boss pets, collection logs, and GP, slowly getting your level up. There's no need to rush yourself to 120 or 200 mil as I did. I only did it because I cared about the rank. I think if I could go back and I didn't care about the rank, I'd probably put myself down at Raziel around like 110 and just get 110 to 120 there. New methods will be discovered every day. Again, they'll be in the description or a comment if there's anything really good. So get your necromancy level up, and I hope you at least learned something from this video. I hope it helped you on your journey, and if it did, leave a like or comment down below. These 1 to 99 videos take a lot of effort to put together as you're trying to route out the path of everything. So thank you, take care, and have a good day.